For the past few years, Republicans in Congress and elsewhere have been attacking prosecutors who aren't doing what Republicans want politically. They have made up claims of a two-tiered system of justice between Republicans and Democrats. You're left to wonder why this report spends time making gratuitous and inappropriate criticisms of the president.
There's White House spokesman Ian Sams criticizing the special counsel's report findings and rejecting claims of a double standard, even though the probe found both Biden and Trump willfully withheld classified documents, but only one of them is being charged. Fox News contributor and law professor Jonathan Turley joins us now. Hey, Professor, just as a point of clarification, that was a lie, what we just heard, right? In other words, what he's saying, he said that the special prosecutor didn't find enough evidence to support a charge. That's not true. The special prosecutor said, I do have evidence, but I don't think I can win a trial because of these factors about Biden's brain. It wasn't gratuitous. In fact, it was the crux of his argument as to why he wasn't bringing charges.
Well, much of what was said by Sams in that press conference was untrue or misleading. My former student, John Decker, one of the reporters, called him to task on that. But it doesn't seem to make any difference. The irony, of course, is that this is the administration that has sought to censor people for disinformation. That press conference was from top to bottom a disinformation effort. I mean, there was false statements made not only by the president but by his aides. The president lied during his press conference. He said things that were just clearly, unmistakably untrue. He said that all of his material was housed in locked or areas or relatively secure areas. They weren't. There were photos showing that. He said he never showed classified information to his ghostwriter. That's exactly opposite of what the finding was. Those comments that he made are troubling, but not so much as his statement that I have really good memory. Well, if that's true, then either he's diminished memory, as the special counsel said, or he was deceptive with the special counsel and is now saying, I actually do remember things. Right. Yeah,
it's either guilty or poor mental health. It's one or the other. How about Trump on this? Like, how do you pursue charges against Trump after declining to pursue charges against Biden? I mean, the facts are not differentiated other than Trump was president. Biden wasn't president at the time of retention of classified documents.
Well, that's the anomaly here, is that the report details findings of a crime. The report finds all the elements you need for a crime. It says that he willfully retained this evidence. Within an hour of this appointment, he was able to confirm that he willfully retained classified material, he mishandled it. And the best that it can come up with in distinguishing it is, well, Trump obstructed the efforts to get this material. Well, you charged him with obstruction, but you also charged him with a slew of mishandling and retention violations. That's the problem. You know, you can be charged with gross negligence in the mishandling of this material. What would you call a box that's falling apart in a garage next to a Corvette containing classified material? I mean, yeah, he might be sympathetic, but those pictures don't lie.
Well, really quickly, before we go, the Supreme Court set to hear arguments on Trump's removal from state ballots. I think now Hawaii is the latest as well to do this, I believe. Colorado's the case that's pushing forward. What do you expect from the Supreme Court?
Well, if the trajectory from the oral argument continues, as I expect it will, you're looking at a very strong majority overturning what Colorado did. There's even the capability or possibility of a unanimous decision. And this is for a theory that people like Professor Lawrence Tribe and others called unassailable. And they said that people raising objections were making absurd arguments. Well, some of those toughest questions were coming from the left of the court with Justice Kagan, Justice Jackson. Justice Jackson referred to this theory as undemocratic and asked the counsel, why should we err on the side of an undemocratic theory?
Wow, that will be fascinating. So you suggest we could be looking at something that's unanimous there. That'll be fascinating. Professor Turley, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.